talking about upcycling in the food chain, transforming waste into worth. Sounds like a big promise. Let's see how well our speakers can deliver on this promise. Olga Dubey, CEO, AgroSustain SA, Dr. Lara Ramdin, Chief Innovation and Science Officer at Upcycled Foods Incorporated, Carlos Cabrera, Managing Director at Greencovery, and the panel discussion moderator joining us now, Piotr Grabowski, co-founder Foodtech.ac. Good to see you back, Piotr, and everyone else. Welcome. Yeah, a little bit of confusion about who sits where is always welcome.
Should we keep the lights?
Yeah, they should be technically working.
It's okay.
I was thinking we should keep the lights going to raise the energy in this room. Have a little bit of a dance break,
it's
everybody.
the usual after-lunch effect. So, people might be a little sleepy. So
everybody say yeah!
Actually, it depends entirely on you, on the energy in the panel. So don't look for excuses in the audience.
You say upcycling, I say upcycling. No, anyway, I'll stop
That was a good
now.
one.
Yeah.
Plus for creativity.
Can I
Enjoy.
have my mic? Okay, it's working now. Lara, in your previous life, or maybe current life, did you do any DJing or like hyping at the parties?
Yeah.
Very much
Can
looks
you tell?
like it.
I see. It's super visible. Okay. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the serious talk, not so serious talk, about upcycling. My name is Piotr Grabowski. I'm going to be a host with my amazing guest today. So starting from the right side, Olga Dubey, CEO of AgroSustain, a startup from Switzerland. Applause to her, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Our DJ and entertainer here, Dr. Lara Ramdin, Chief Innovation and Science Officer at Upcycled Foods from US.
Woohoo!
Woo! And Carlos Cabrera, Managing Director and founder of Greencovery from Netherlands. Hello.
Although I am not from the US and he is not from the Netherlands originally, but we'll get into
so
that
let's start.
later.
Where are you from, guys?
I am from the UK. I live in the US, and I'm the Chief Innovation and Science Officer of Upcycled Foods, Inc., which is a US-based company. We specialize in upcycled ingredients that come from side streams, byproducts. Did you want us to introduce ourselves, by the way? I'm just assuming.
Actually, you know the question,
I know the
so you know the
questions.
answer, so you already started. So yes, Lara,
I went straight into
please tell us what
We
are
have
you
an
doing, who you are, what's your business,
Yes.
what's your role?
Sorry, I preempted you.
Please do. I see.
We have, you see how this is going to go, by the way, for the next 40 minutes. If you weren't awake, you are going to be by the end of this, right, Piotr? We committed to wake everybody up in the room.
We committed, yeah, to
We're going to inform
organize
you,
this.
we're going to infuse you with science and biology, and we're going to keep you awake after lunch.
Yeah.
So I lead the R&D innovation program for Upcycled Foods, Inc., which we are an ingredient platform, meaning our focus is on creating food ingredients from byproducts and side streams that then go back into food systems. So we go back, and these ingredients go into a wide range of food systems, so bread, cakes, cookies, pizza dough, you name it, we've got them in there. And really, my philosophy is that food waste is a crime, not just because of the impact on greenhouse gas emissions, because of the hungry people in the world. And why wouldn't you want to rescue that nutrition and put that back into human food?
I see you feel it. How long you have been doing with food waste, with upcycle or side stream?
Officially, I've been in the current role for about a year and a half, and prior to that, I worked in what everybody's calling corporate R&D for 20-something years.
But with the food waste topic, I see by heart yours is the very beginning. You're here.
Well,
in the world.
I used to work for a beer company, a big beer company who had a lot of waste and wanted essentially to create something, an extra revenue stream. And so I guess I fell in love with it through that, but have realized that this is actually a conduit to feeding more people in the world.
Okay, thank you. Carlos, what you're up to? What's your business doing? What's your role? How you get there?
Yeah, super. So thanks. So my name is Carlos. I'm the founder and managing director of Greencovery. As Lara, we are really fighting food waste. So our company is really committed to try to avoid food waste in general, especially in the processing of our food. Currently, normally it goes just to animal feed or to waste. And yeah, we are really fighting that. And we do that with our unique technology that we're making a separation between of the side streams to create proteins, fibers, and flavors. And yeah, so we work together with the food industry to bring our solution into their facility, because what we really think is that we cannot do this alone. We have to do it together with them to create a real impact and to make upcycling ingredients the norm.
But you are not producing by yourself. You are kind of like a right hand or a helper for big food industry of both sides. So side stream producers and receivers, yes?
So how it works is that the food companies have been coming to us with the question, hey, I have this side stream, I want to do something with it, or from a sustainability perspective, or from just creating more revenue. And they come to us with the question, hey, we don't know where to start. And that's where we come in with our technology to show to them the value of the ingredients that we can be produced from it, but as well the market of it. Because you can think of, I always put the example of soy beverages. There's a big size stream there. When you come to them and tell them, hey, you can produce a protein and a fiber that can be really, has a really nice market, it's really far away from them. It still feels like we don't have any clue about the ingredients market. So that's where we come in and we bring our partners to make it a reality.
We actually do something very similar, but in different places.
Yeah, I exactly see this connection, yeah.
Because we also do the product application work, and then also and try and create that category and/or market for them.
And are you focused on all the markets all over the world? Or you have specific markets you're focused on?
I would say the primary focus is obviously the US market, because that's where the waste is generated. And I don't necessarily want to create waste, create an ingredient, put it in a food product, and then move everything around the world, because that negates the initial intent, of course. Yes, so we essentially, Carlos's company and ours, essentially do very similar things in similar ways, as it turns out.
Okay, so you're both competing and cooperating.
We ended up on this panel, we realized that we were doing similar things.
Do you want to sit in between you two, so you don't feel so much competition?
Well, we don't feel competition yet.
Olga, what you're doing, what's your startup doing, what's your role in there, how long have you been there, what's your experience?
I feel like I should be mediator between these two.
No.
So basically at AgroSustain we do something in the same line as you do. So we're helping to find the food waste, but we are doing it differently. So what we are doing, we commercialized an edible coating that we can put on the surface of fresh fruits and vegetables, and it helps to extend the shelf life during transportation or where we need to store it. For example, in Poland, producing so many apples, and sometimes I store it for like a year. And you need to use technologies to extend the shelf life, not to lose any quality during this long storage. And that's where our coating helps. And then also for retailers to reduce the waste in the stores.
Ooh, very simple. So we have a lot of similarities, but I guess you also have kind of different approaches to specific topics. But before we came to that hard, interesting IP technology part, guys, what was your, I don't know, best, biggest, I don't know, you are the most proud of achievement, professional achievement of last year? Who wants to start? Lara, of course.
I think we made significant inroads when we were able to see an ingredient in a bread in Kroger. Okay. So if you live in the US, then now Kroger and Albertsons have joined partnerships, so they're one of the biggest retailers in the whole of the US. And I think some people were talking earlier about who we need to bring on the journey with us in order to make good food accessible and affordable. And it's actually the retailers, for me, are one of the biggest challenges. They have their own label bread, Simple Truth, and so we now have, and it's now called an upcycled bread. So that's a huge achievement.
So starting cooperating with real retailer on that problem.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a different model, right? I've worked in consumer goods my whole life, right? So I've worked for big brands, and so my previous experience has been I develop the product, you make the product. I work with my company's marketing, and then we sort of sell that into the retailer. It's a very different model to work with a retailer on their own private label brand and said, we're going to co-create this innovation with you. That's also a different model.
So working in a field with the business.
Yeah, working retailers is a whole different ball game, I would say.
Olga, your achievement, what you're proud of?
So last year was quite an exciting year because we launched our product, which was an edible coating, and we got authorization directly for using it all around Europe on the fresh produce. So it was quite an exciting year, and now we are continuing with our commercialization.
How long have you been into R&D process before you launched the product?
Around 3 years.
3 years. You've
we
been
were
waiting and
quite
waiting and
lucky
waiting when
there.
it happens.
It
A long
could be
3
worse.
years, I bet.
Yes.
Okay, and Carlos.
Yeah, so similar story. So one of the main challenges we were discussing of upcycled ingredients is that you make them and then it's really convincing the market that there's an interest there or having a retailer to put into their products. And I have to say, like for us, like that's something that we're really happy with, that we were able to prove the last year's 4 or 5 different applications of our technology. And now we're moving into making products out of those ingredients together with our partners.
Okay, so like, guys, just to summarize the stage your companies are at. So like you're basically making your first traction revenues, yes? Like pilots, paid pilots, first customers.
We call it commercialized, but subscale is officially what we call it.
Okay, I see that.
Something like that.
Yeah, you're fluent in English, both US, UK. So
That's an American.
So you'll be our
That's an
specialty
Americanism.
dictionary. So if anyone wants to translate something
I'm
from...
also fluent in Americanism, if you like.
Great. I love that. Okay, Lara, like I personally, and I guess we all here observe that this upcycling topic especially gained in popularity during last 2 years, I guess. Like, what are the key reasons behind it?
I mean, honestly, let's be frank, since we're friends here, right? I think most people have spotted a revenue opportunity and said, you know, if we have this waste stream or this byproduct and it's going to animal feed and we can get, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, $1 per kilo, whatever it is, if we actually create value from this so that it's something that's food grade, can we actually get $3, $4, $5 for it? Or can we, and this is, I would say, probably is important, but probably secondary, if we're out in the market and we're talking about circular economy, and we're a big food company and we're talking about building a circular economy, is there a way for us to create our own circular economy by taking this waste stream or byproduct and using it back in our food systems? And I would say that's the majority of where my conversations are, because I work B2B, so I work with big food companies. And where I see most engagement is this idea of building your own and owning your own circular economy.
How much in revenue? It's like plus 5%, plus 10%. How big numbers do they see?
Well, the reality is that the food companies that we both work for aren't going to be ingredient companies, right? So they're sitting on something that they know is valuable, and they're sitting on something that they know they can make money from, but they don't know because they're not an ingredient company. So it depends on the ingredient, right? If you're selling fiber, I deal mostly in fiber, you know, and fiber and protein,
Okay,
and actually that fiber and protein is valuable. It could be, and it also depends on the business model. I don't know, it could be that they're giving it away, it could be that they're selling it. So the revenue can depend on the business model. Where they're more interested in is whether or not in that circular economy, can I put it back into a food application, and can I charge maybe 1.5 or 2x for that product because it's, you know, souped up with extra fiber or souped up with extra protein because it's more functional.
Carlos, you want to add something?
Yeah, so revenue is, it's one of the stronger things that they're looking at. But what we also seen, like so the consumers are a little bit more aware of that they don't want to. So food waste, I think all of us will agree, is something we don't want. So the consumer sees this as well. So for example, like we see it with the oats and with the soy beverages producers, they're having a big lash from their consumers saying, are you making soy milk or oat milk, or are you making animal feed? And then there's an angle to it. Still, I agree, like revenue is the main one, but there's an extra angle there from the sustainability and the consumer perspective of reducing food waste.
I think the European consumer is at a very different stage of development versus the US consumer. So what I am on the board of the Upcycled Food Association, and what we have seen over the last 2 or 3 years is that actually the messaging and the waste framing language that you use to a consumer is evolving and changing. The American consumer isn't interested in food waste, but it is interested if you say that you've rescued nutrition. because there's an emotional connection to wasting food when you talk about wasting nutrition, because there are so many hungry people in the US. There are 44 million people hungry in the US, which is a huge number. And so when you start talking about rescue, which is where my focus is, we start talking about rescue nutrition, then that narrative becomes different. And we have different, in the association, there are about 270 members, and you have different all of these products and consumer goods products talk about waste in different ways, but I see an evolution of people moving towards talking about the rescuing of nutrition and moving away from the word waste in their products.
Okay, we'll come back to the consumer side later. Olga, staying with the business, you work both with producers of food waste, food products, sorry.
They also do some food waste.
Yeah, that's true. And with retailers, basically, you provide them currently with the biocoatings. What does those parties, both of them, expect from technology providers like you?
Well, they have quite a different pain points, because for producer, they are getting a revenue based on what they're selling. So what they want is to have a good quality produce to reach a distributor who is going to pay for the product that they received. So what they want is to have something good quality to be delivered, and like we discussed before, sometimes it takes 3 to 4 weeks for avocado, mango to arrive from Chile, for example, or Brazil to Rotterdam, and during this time the quality loss is of course occurring, so that's pain point for producers. For distributors, sometimes they have to keep the produce for 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the need, what's coming from the market. And during this time, you have additional losses, and this is where we can also help. And for retailers, it's 2 points. On one side, obviously, the waste in the store, and another one, how to please the end consumer. Because in Europe, people are caring about food waste, not from nutritional value, but from food waste point. So for us, it's important to know that we can reduce the waste in our homes, and that's what we can do with the coatings, for example.
Can the retailers use this part that is a bio-coating as a marketing side of upselling point for the customers, or customers not ready, not aware enough at the moment?
Well, it's a very tricky question. In reality, coatings, and especially wax, has been used here for many, many years. But if you ask the end consumer, would you know that something was already put on your mango for the last 10 years? No. And the reason for it, because based on regulations, they don't need to mention what was put after the harvest on the fresh produce, except citrus, for example, where they need to put all the fungicides which were applied. So I think there is quite a strong need to make people aware of what we are already eating. And from this perspective, I think it can also adjust quite a bit our nutrition.
Okay, and do you think, are there any legal regulations also pushing towards, or are we expecting any legal regulations towards changing the old-fashioned coatings into bio-coatings, or not? How does it look like?
I have a feeling regulations always trying to change something, if it's for good or for bad matter. But the good point, at least they are re-evaluating the old applications, which are already good. But the overall trend in the ecosystem, people trying to buy something more eco-friendly or more natural solutions. So in the past, they were much more driven by the chemicals, and these days when we are talking to our potential clients, the first question, what is it made of? I want to be sure that it's degradable, and etc.
Okay, revenue-driven, let's say business-driven, health-driven, but Carlos, tricky question, I guess. So in that context of upcycling, is the food business open not only for the additional profit, but for some kind of impact or science? Because I see that many producers would be happiest to simply sell that side stream to biogas plant, for example. Yeah, I see they are doing that. It's super simple, and they don't want to worry about any R&D processes. So how would you convince those producers to actually dig deeper and do something more?
Yeah, so there's 2 angles to it. So first, because I just wanted to add something from Olga, that also in the upcycled ingredients, there's something we see that when we talk about upcycled ingredients for the end user, for the consumer, then for them it would be, what is an upcycled ingredient? So always for us, at least it has to be first the functionality. That's the first thing, okay, you have or this special flavor, or you have this special nutrition, or extra fiber, or lower salt, and so on. Before
extra in quality or extra in lower price?
Extra in quality.
Okay.
extreme quality. So we are never going for price because then you get into the.
What ingredients are we competing with actually? Like what's the better quality alternative of upcycled? Maybe some of your projects to traditional.
Yeah, so for example, we have a fiber that has beta-glucans on it. So then when you add it to a sauce, you have a higher fiber content to it, which is a replacer for sugar in this case. We have other cases that then we're replacing methyl cellulose with an extra fiber that has a nice functionality there. So the functionality has to come first. That's on that connection. Then on your question, so basically when we talk with, let's say, with the size stream owner, for them, what you said is super clear. Like for them, it's super easy to just sell it to biogas or to animal feed. In many of the cases in which we have a success is when they see the sustainability perspective of it or they want to get extra revenue. And the sustainability meaning like as a corporate, they are moving into that direction. So they have to prove that they're doing something with it. At least in the European Union, it's super nice that now the European Commission wants to, force is a big word, but to help companies to reduce their food waste by reducing by 10%. So they have to reduce by 10% in 2030, let's say.
No, I think the force is the right word. Actually.
Help or force? That's the question. Yeah.
I think the scope 3 emissions is where we come in and we help people the most, right? And I think it varies on whether the company cares about it or not. Certainly in the US, California is quote unquote forcing companies to review how they approach their scope 3 emissions. So it's becoming a bigger part of discussion.
Okay, but still it's okay.
And I want to add, and the third one that we discovered in the last years as well, like what was really interesting is that then it comes into place the animal feed companies. So the animal feed companies, they are seeing that their source in this moment, people are looking for other alternatives to it. And they're like, okay, if this continues like that, I'm out of business. So for them, it's becoming super interesting to get into the field to start making higher value ingredients. And that's for us one that is working really well.
I would also say that in some cases, depending on where you live, people care more about their pets than they do about themselves. And so actually, we have quite a few pet food companies coming to us to talk about our upcycled ingredients because they're incredibly nutritious and good for their dogs and their cats.
Yeah, that's I guess Poland is one of these countries actually. Like those.
Well, the US love their dogs.
Okay, more and more coming here.
I used to think it couldn't possibly be more than the British people loving their dogs, but yeah, come and live in California and you'll see.
Just to catch up on this, like biogas plant, animal feed, what are other easy ways the companies are getting rid of like utilizing the side stream, let's say? These are two main ones.
They're the two main ones, actually.
Are
the
there
easiest ones?
Okay, so
and these ones because there's another company already. Like there's a business around it. So that's where we come in. That we're creating this new alternative and new business to make more value out of it. Because in this moment, there are companies that just recollect for you.
Yes, exactly. And so you have to make it. It isn't just about the ingredient. It's about everything else that goes with it. It's about the infrastructure and the logistics, right? So animal feed and biochar, somebody else is dealing it with you. So it's almost out of sight, out of mind. Somebody else is dealing with it. I don't need to even think about it.
So what would be like the low-hanging, the easiest way to make a first step from that to utilizing side stream in a proper, sustainable way?
When I talk to partners, it isn't what Carlos is alluding to. It isn't about the resulting ingredient and the impact it has. You have to look at the whole value chain. So you have to look at what they're paying, if they're paying in logistics to have it removed, et cetera, and you have to look at it. You have to propose the whole thing, the whole value chain.
So for us, let's say like the lowest hanging fruit is typically when we work directly with an ingredient company, because that is like I have the side stream, I have the market of the ingredients, and I can close the loop right away. Mm-hmm. When we're working with a food company that is not in ingredients market, then you have to create that to close that loop basically. And that takes a little bit longer, but it's possible.
I have found the finding the right product application in that food company where they have a ownership in a big category, like the snack category has been in the lower hanging fruit.
Okay. Lara, so let's move to the consumer side. What kind of benefits can average consumer have from popularization of, closing the stream of side stream in the process of food production?
So consumers is a tricky one. Somebody said earlier on in a panel that consumers don't really care about sustainability. It's not true. Well, they tell you that they care, and then they go to the shop and they're standing in front of a shelf, and they have a decision to make with their wallet. And ultimately, it's wallet first, and then looking at a brand and looking at a product where they know what it tastes like, because of course taste is king. And then maybe sustainability is third, fourth, or fifth on that list, maybe. So this idea that consumers are wanting a greener future, yes, ideally, if everything costs the same and we live in this utopia. So going hard with a climate message and a sustainability message in food, at least for mainstream consumers, right? I'm not talking about people who live in California, but mainstream consumers doesn't work. I think, are consumers interested in food waste? Yes. Do they want less food waste? Yes. It's an emotional thing, right? Wasting food. Nobody really wants to waste food. But the fact of the matter is, 2024, we're still wasting 38% of all food made, right, globally. And 42% of that 38% comes from people at home. So the math ain't mathing, right? So, I think, continuing to talk about the nutrition and rescuing nutrition, for, at least with the food companies that we work with, seems to be resonating more. But I will say that that's an evolving target and will continue to evolve as we learn more. I have a colleague of mine who is in the upcycle space, and she has a snack brand called Pulp Chips, which is made from upcycled vegetable and vegetable juice pulp from presseries. And she has been part of a Target accelerator, and she's one of the fastest growing snacks in the snack category. And she's totally rebranded her snack to call it Trashy. So,
even being more honest,
being more honest and really leaning into it. So the equivalent would be to call it rubbish in the UK, which I have no idea how that would work.
Okay, so anyway, it's not like oh, we're pretending we're doing something. It's like we're really doing.
We're really doing it, but she's kind of doing it in a sort of tongue-in-cheek, kind of cheeky way. And what I see now is that the sort of student age, sort of Generation Z, they love it. They think it's so cool to eat chips that are called trash. Whereas the rest of us are like, huh? So I think you can go one route where you really lean into it and you basically say, this is a bag of garbage. Or you go the other route, which is probably more mainstream and more sophisticated, where you say, actually, do you agree that food waste is a crime? Let's rescue that and put that back into food and feed people.
Great example. Is this company available in retail in US?
It is available.
If I go to Whole Foods or somewhere?
She will love the fact that I've told you all to look up a company, because she's raising Trashy Chips. Look it up. She's doing a total rebrand.
Carlos, you've been working both with side stream producers and with ingredients company who are looking to have some ingredients in their portfolio which have this upcycling factor. Simply saying you're trying to match one side with the other side. What does such a process look like, and what competencies are they lacking that you are completing in that process?
Yeah, so typically how this will start, it will be like the side stream owner, and it can be the ingredients company, or it can be the normal food producer like the oat and the...
Ideally, it's food producer and ingredients company, yes?
Yeah. So how it starts, like they will come to us with the question, like we have this...
Who will come? Which part will come?
The side stream owner. Let's call it side stream owner. So a side stream owner would come with us, to us, we have this side stream, we want to valorize it. So what we have seen, there are the ones more willing to change something, because they want to change what they're doing in this moment with their side stream. They want to avoid that waste. And what is our task is to use our technology to make the separation, and then find applications for these ingredients and test it with our partners on the ingredient side. So really, which applications it has the most potential in the market.
Okay, so application is very important part. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
So something that we were, so at the beginning, like when we started the company, we were maybe naive, saying, okay, we have this new technology, we make these ingredients, and everyone would love it. And then what we discovered really fast was that we have to make the applications, bring it to the market, prove it that in which application makes more sense, and work and get the highest value for these ingredients companies.
Most
And
people on the other end need to see the proof of concept before they buy into it, right?
yeah, but like from our perspective, like we always thought like this ingredient company, like they have the know-how. But coming back to your question, they have the know-how. They could do it themselves, but they're super busy running their day-to-day activities. Comes out of the blue. So then you really have to come in and prove to them that why this functional ingredient is better than what they're trying at this moment, and how to bring it further.
I guess, Olga, like, is there, like, among the distributors, like, when they, get this transportation value chain, like, what do they do with their food waste? And do you see any opportunities into, turning it into value somehow, their waste? And it might be upcycling process, I don't know.
Well, I think it could be definitely integrated because depending on the seasons, if it's a rainy season, for example, they would have definitely higher losses, especially because of the molds. And there, it's not much you can do anymore with the food. You either use more fungicides, but then you cannot consume it anymore, or it just goes to trash. And especially now with the global warming, we see more and more issues, like in Brazil in the last month, and they had this crazy amount of rain. And now a lot of retailers are struggling to bring mangoes which are not rotten yet.
Have you seen some technologies for doing something with rotting and molding food?
I think once they're rotten, it's a little bit too late.
Once it's rotten, or I mean, one of the once it's rotten, that's it. You can't do anything with it. I mean, one of the key challenges of upcycling is that you want to guarantee safety, right? And so we wouldn't be able to use that, unfortunately.
Yeah, so one of the things that, because we got this question a lot at the beginning, like, can you do something with, and for us, like, what is really important is to be as close as possible to where that side stream is still considered food.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great because you can have control.
No point, right?
Yeah, as fast as possible, so you get the full values, ingredients, quality, and so on. Yes.
That's why we work directly with the processing, with the food processing, because otherwise, like, if you're too far away, then then you cannot put it back into the food system.
When I worked at Dole, our biggest food mountain is banana. Well, globally, it's bananas, because bananas get rejected on the basis of how they look. Not on their nutritional value and not what they look like on the inside, but what the skin looks like on the outside, because obviously there's a fungus that can attack bananas that gives them black spots, and then they don't even make it onto a truck because they don't look right, because we have educated everybody that they don't look right, basically. And there's nothing wrong with them, obviously.
Yeah, that's another discussion
that's
about
another discussion.
The look of the...
Yes. And so when we set up our upcycling sort of business unit, we had to put the processing facility at the plantation. So it's at the plantation beside the bananas and beside the pineapples, so that, because otherwise there's just no point.
Okay, Olga, coming back to your part of the business, like biocoatings and coatings have been with us for some time. Like, what kind of technology, like innovation, did you see in that area in last years?
Well, I think what's changing is, again, education of us as the end consumers, because slowly people start to be aware that something is put on the food and it helps us to reduce the waste. And it's a little bit perception of the market which is changing. And in addition to it, we hear about new legislation coming on reduction of single-wrap plastic packaging. And this is where coating can help a lot, because plastic packaging still brings a lot of benefit by maintaining humidity and protecting it a little bit from damages. So it's a good opportunity to enter a market with an old idea, but more modern technology and more easy to be integrated.
Oh, I get it. So, like, I think this kind of, the factors that are coming to that biocoatings factor are much, so many applications coming probably for that. Do you see any other applications than vegetables or fruits?
Well, indeed, it was a boom, like a baby boom, but like a coaching boom over the last few years. But I think what makes it all different is approval on the market. It still takes a lot of time. Yep. And at the end of the day, if you look at the list of the companies which are approved, it's not so many. And what makes us all different is on how many crops it works. And indeed, fruits are the ones with most of the demand is because it's a high margin crops. But vegetable is something which I think might take space in the near future because people becoming more and more aware of the benefits of coating. And like, think about your carrot. Sometimes you bring it home and if you don't put it in the fridge, after 2 days it's all shrinked. And this is where the coating can also give benefits on the vegetables, for example.
Thanks. Carlos, in which product categories do you see the most opportunities for upcycling at the moment? And why?
So there's a couple of things there. So one of the things is like which category is more willing to make changes. So one that we see that, for example, plant-based alternatives, they're desperate to look for solutions for alternatives that taste good. Mm-hmm. So we see a high rate of implementation of our ingredients. But in general categories like bars, like things that are related to nutrition, that helps a lot. Because one of the things I always said, like, so we're making proteins and fibers, but yeah, proteins is something that we talk a lot, but fibers is not that much. And then from a nutrition perspective, we have to eat more fibers, so that's working well, quite well for us. And then on the first categories that we're focusing on has been sauces, for example, sauces and condiments.
Sauces, yes.
Sauces and condiments, because it's an easy application. People get a higher, better flavor or higher fiber protein content, and it's an easily for the food manufacturers to implement in their facility.
Okay. Lara, one thing is, like, you're actually the person who moved from the corporate world to the, let's say, startup side of the game.
I went to the dark side, Piotr.
Dark side.
Yes, just call me Leia.
Okay, and what kind of connections, like regarding upcycling, do you see between those two words?
Well, I think, I mean, obviously, in this particular role that I'm in now, it makes it easier for me to understand what's going on the other side when you're working with a bigger food company. And I understand why they might be slow to react, for example.
What didn't you see before being on the corporate side?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? When I worked in a bigger company, I always thought we were pretty fast. And we were not at all. And the lead time that sometimes, to sometimes get a response from some of the people we work for is quite long. But I do understand what's going on the other side at the corporate level. And I understand, obviously, that there's probably maybe 3, 4, 5 levels above that person, that they're trying to get the budget approved, they're trying to get a project approved. So I have sympathy for that. But I realize now, we were not fast at all.
So how much faster it is in the startup side?
Well, I mean, you can imagine, I worked for 20-something years in big corporations, and then I went to a startup with less than 10 people. And so my timing on something was maybe, I don't know, I turned something around in a week or something. And then at some point, the CEO said to me, in a startup world, we mean like 24 hours, right? And so, I had to learn very quickly that, time is relative, right? And so it means different things for 2 different companies. I would also say that I've considered myself to be pretty creative and pretty entrepreneurial in a bigger company setting, but it's on a whole nother level when there's less than 10 people and you are the scientist and the innovator and the business development partner and the consumer scientist and all of those things, which is not a bad thing. It's just a very different model, of course.
I would like to see you coming back to the corporate world and then applying the startup.
Well, I think I'd probably be kicking a few arses, I would say, if I went back to a bigger food company, because I know it can be done differently.
Okay, Olga, like one of the final questions I would like to ask you, I know there are any technologies you're working on except biocoatings. Can you briefly tell us what they are?
Yeah, so our second product, which we plan to put on the market by 2026, is a biostimulant, so something to apply in a field. Because like we were talking before, it's important to address the issues in terms of quality from early on. And biostimulant is something that can help to enhance the plant growth, especially to make the plants more resistant to drought or salinity stresses, which are becoming quite a big issue these days.
Okay, so before we finish, I would like one final question to all of you, like very brief answer. What technology out of your area of let's say, expertise are you actively looking in the food tech, agri-tech world? Carlos, you can start.
Yeah, so I'm going to mention the standard one that everyone is mentioning here, but I'm quite impressed by what it has done in other sectors, so AI. Because, for example, like, I don't know if you have tried, but I have made like really nice music and things like that with AI. So I'm really looking forward to see how it can be used to improve, like make the development of food products faster, and as well from the processing side, how we can regulate better, that then we avoid food waste in the processing of our food in a better way.
Yeah, I was shocked last year when I was at the Hack Summit in Lausanne, a US startup telling me, oh, we're already using AI since 2 years and we are basically doing 80% of lab tests in the cloud, and then we just do the 20% of the most promising one physically.
Yeah, to be honest, like when everyone started talking about AI, I was like, yeah, okay, so another buzzword. But then when I started using some of the products, I was like, okay, this is quite interesting. There's quite a lot there.
You need robust input data though, right? So they still need, in order to create the right algorithm, you still need good, robust input data.
Olga, your technology.
I'm more into old school. So I believe I think we need more biological solutions, for example, biological fungicides. And we do know that everyone talks about it, but if you look what's available on the market, it's still all the same copper, sulfur, and etc. And I think using nowadays technology, maybe mixing it together with AI, but also high fructose screening and etc., it can really help us to find something sustainable, but also very efficient, which we're currently missing.
So deep tech and bio stuff. Lara, short from you.
So I have been really impressed with what's going on in the UC university system in alternative meat and alternative proteins. I'm part of an ecosystem called ICAM, which is the Integrative Center for Alternative Meat and Proteins. And there's a lot of discussion about that, obviously. I think that the future food system means that we will have to embrace that, as well as all the other things, because we'll need all the tools in the toolbox. But I think what they're doing in that center, and I'm part of that ecosystem as a provider of upcycled ingredients that then can go into those meat analogs, I think is really impressive.
Thank you. So, thank you all for joining us. We are run out of time. Thank you very much.
We really did, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really did.
You
can. I encourage you to catch the guys. I've been chatting to all of them online and now today for over an hour.
Look, we kept them awake.
Yeah, we kept them awake.
You did.
So whatever, like anything, like these guys know a lot about side stream upcycling, you know, like shelf life extension. They're real experts. I encourage you to talk to them, even if it's not your area. You see, they're lively.
We're here to make friends.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Lara told me.
We're here to make
I'm
friends.
coming to make
Even
friends.
Even if you're not
That's
interested in upcycling, we're here to make friends.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Olga, Carlos, Lara, Piotr, excellent moderation as expected. Thank you so very much.